Ironside will not be seen tonight, so we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. How you doing, everybody? Welcome back. It's time for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suttress with you. I am really excited to talk about this documentary series that is streaming now. It is called, I should say, you could purchase it through Apple and Amazon and Google Play, and it's great. And I got the poster for it right now, everybody. There it is, Selling Superman. And I'm really excited to talk to the filmmaker, Adam Schomer. Adam, welcome to Word Balloon. Am I saying it right, Schomer?
You got it, John. Thank you. That's actually I can't believe you found that. That's a poster from 2 years ago. It's not the official poster. So,
excuse me.
No, it's pretty cool that you. I didn't know that was even out there. I tried to scrub the internet. Yeah, that's from way before. But that's fun to see that one again because that's what I was using back when we were all this. Not to be here, man.
Oh man, we're getting a little bit of, I don't understand, connectivity issues, Adam. So you were cutting in and out for a second. Okay. So hopefully this will work out. But I'm checking my internet strength and everything's cool. But because really I'm really looking forward to talking to you about this. So if we do have issues and it doesn't clear up, we'll arrange for another talk and everything that we could pre-record maybe through Zoom or something like that. But I really appreciate you being live. This is amazing. It is about a private collection that really was. You tell the story, Adam, and you tell how much of it you want to tell in terms of the family and what they've created from this father who has passed, and his collection goes back to
and let me know again if it does cut out. I can repeat. A 40-year family secret. And that's what blew me away. I knew Darren. All right, we went to high school together. I go off. I make documentaries. He does tech. 30 years later, more or less, he's like, "Hey, by the way, you didn't know this. My father had Asperger. He was collecting comics. He was taking over the house. I mean, can you imagine as a kid keeping this secret from all your friends?" So he did, and I knew his mom. I knew his dad. We didn't know any of this, and so. It blew me away. 300,000 comics, and they said, "Hey, Superman #1," which Darren himself graded. His father never graded anything. He was too paranoid to do that. Graded at a 7.0. You value it at 3 million. You never know. It depends on the year you sell it, and that blew me away right at the beginning. I'm not a comic book fandom guy. I love Lord of the Rings. I love Star Wars. I grew up with Superman, all that stuff.
Sure.
Not super into comics. So it blew me away that comics had become what they had become and the prices that were going around. I knew the general public through my eyes as a non-fandom guy. I knew I'd be fascinated with the people, the culture, the obsessiveness, the beauty of it, the innocence, and then this really difficult situation Darren finds himself in, which is, what do you do with these things, especially when it's a pain point? It really broke up his whole family. So his dad wasn't too nice with these comics, really.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, this documentary is really interesting because it does tell Darren and his family. What's Darren's last name?
Darren Watts.
Darren Watts. So Darren Watts' family, his mother, his brother, they're survivors of Mr. Watts, and Dale Watts was his name, and also we even get his sister. This is such an interesting documentary series on so many levels because I think it's a great examination of the collecting culture. And I'll even say I'm a big reader, and I like talking to the writers and artists normally. And I'll dip into the collector's side. And I certainly know enough just being a person that goes to conventions and things. But this really was an expansive tutorial of what do you do when you literally have this giant, as you say, over 300,000 copies of comics, key issues, as we all know. So not only the jewels of the crown of Batman #1 from 1940, Superman #1 from 1939, but a lot of other Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, all the way through the modern age until I'm assuming Mr. Watts passed away. But a lot of key issues and multiples, like like a dozen of. And I'm just throwing these out there. The specific numbers may vary, but let's say the first Galactus appearance in Fantastic Four. Hell, Fantastic Four #1, several copies. Several copies of Black Panther, several copies of a lot of key
Giant Size X-Men, 10 copies, all at high grades, like at $25,000 books, and 10 of them.
Exactly. And it's really interesting because you see the process of going to places like Heritage, the auction house and everything that is very common to a lot of collectors, but also the dealers that we see at the conventions. And because of my podcast, I go to more than just the Chicago shows, although you're from Detroit, and I have to admit, I've never been to the Motor City Con just because the proximity to Chicago, we get a lot of the same creators coming to both.
Sure.
But I certainly have my friends that are creators in the Michigan and Wisconsin and Detroit area specifically. But yeah, certainly these dealers will make the same trip between Detroit and Chicago cons. And yeah, and also just a lot of people that you meet. And I mean, this is just such a personal story on a lot of levels, but also again, the collecting side and the fact that that he's coming from this position of, this is my dad's collection. I don't know what to do with it because it really caused a lot of trauma in our family. But also, by the same time, it's 300,000 comics. What do you do? And thankfully, he's got a tech job where he can really keep this stuff pristine and in environment controlled storage, containers like you see on the docks of shipping and things like that. It's really this fascinating story about a personal collection. Again, prior to this whole thing, he wasn't a dealer. So yeah, continue.
Yeah. And I love that kind of Ocean's 11 moment of it where it's like, you got to build out a fortress. He's got to make his own crystal fortress up for these books. His dad just had them in, the basement, in this room, in that room, in boxes, but never touched them. So they ended up being pristine. I mean, anything could have happened in Michigan, in a basement, right? And so there's a lot of luck involved like that, but they never read them. So when Darren, who is a tech guy, got a hold of these, I love that it wasn't just a lottery story. Like, oh, now I have money, and I did it before. Self-made. He doesn't like to talk about his money, but it was important to him to know, like, look, my dad didn't make me who I am because he gave me this collection. I am my own man. Yeah. It's really pretty prevalent. He's like, I'm my own guy, and I don't want this collection to define me. But in Darren's fashion, who's a kind of a perfectionist and a really smart guy, much because of the way his dad raised him, he wants to do this right. And he gets a team together, the Ocean's 11 vibe, and they really get the air right and the quality right. And these shipping containers, it's a warehouse within a warehouse. So there's multiple layers of security like that. I love that kind of stuff that he let me, at that point into the layer before anyone else, let me and the crew in. And then we got to film, like you said, him coming out for the first time at Motor City and starting to meet dealers. And actually that first moment that he told Harley Yee, who's a well-known dealer, hey, I have this Superman 1. And it was a big moment. It's a big moment that, okay, his life's about to change because it's out there now. And a lot of guys, as you probably know, they hide when they have these books. We don't know who has the other Superman 7.0. We don't know who has the Superman 8.0. People don't talk about it. They like to be hidden. And Darren's kind of one of the guys that's out, just said, I'll be out there.
And further, he doesn't want these books, especially the really tip of the iceberg in terms of the most valuable books. He doesn't want them to go to a private collector. He wants them to be experienced by the public as much as they can be. And that's the other thing. And it is what keeps me from being a collector is, you really do have to preserve this stuff. This stuff, and certainly not the Golden Age books, they were thrown out. The reason why they're valuable is moms would throw them out for the paper drives of the war effort. And also they're cluttering the attic. Get rid of this crap. So that's why they're rare. That's why they're valuable. But, once you slab them, as you point out in the documentary, and stuff, you can only look at them. And I know as just a fan of the old stuff. And I'm so glad over the years, and in fact, DC in particular is doing it now, where they're reprinting like the entire issues top to bottom, not just the stories, but even the ads and, just the crazy ephemera that was within the comic and stuff. That's the fun, is really. And I mean, I always did this even as a kid in the 70s, buying old issues from the 60s, and even now grabbing reader copies that are not worth, barely worth $5 or whatever, because they're beaten up. But I love seeing the Aurora model ads and the letter pages. And, a lot of times they're creators that become famous after the fact. And they were writing fan letters as kids and stuff. I want to, before we continue, my buddy Sal, who I was just telling you about, Adam, off the air, the guy who produced the Alex Ross documentary, he says, wishing you tremendous success with your film. It's must watch. Fascinating. Yeah. And I want, listen, everybody, this is, I'm happy to talk about this with Adam. And one of the reasons why too is, again, you can buy the 4 episode series on Amazon or on Apple Plus or on Google Play, $12. Really under $12, at least as Amazon. That was the thing. And it's so worth it, man. And, dude, forgive me, but really, you're a hell of a filmmaker, because for decades we've seen, and no disrespect to the people that, make homemade documentaries where they got the camcorder and they're just shooting and stuff, because a lot of times they would and still get great content as far as interviews. But I have seen so many comic book history documentaries, and it's like, been there, done that. And it's really hard. You'll forgive me, but as a 60-year-old man, it's like, all right, I've seen a lot of these things literally since the 80s, or even some cases, old interviews from the 70s. So it really takes a fresh approach for me to really go, wait a minute. And it's so great to see, because clearly your technique as a filmmaker comes through, and it's very, very professionally done. And, and it really is coming at it from such a different angle. Both the individual collector can appreciate this, but also really understanding from top to bottom the collecting experience from a convention standpoint. And so many people that are involved that either work for him or also were just people that he met along the way, small dealers and big dealers. They're just these earnest people, understood where he was coming from. And it really, it shows a great side of the comic book nerd community. And I say that with the most respect and honor that I am part of that community as well. But it really is. It really is a nice way to see that we're, a lot more nice people than not nice. Although there were some lousy people, as you point out in your series as well.
Yeah, but I fell in love with the character. I call them characters. They're humans. They're people. I'm in my story brain a lot, and I'm just thinking arcs and character. But very sympathetic, like Josh, the hatchback kid, and his father working together, the kind of relationship Darren wanted to have. And here he stumbles upon this kid, and it's not a real spoiler alert that whose father is named Dale. Just like Darren's dad's named Dale, and Darren's not a particularly spiritual guy, but it's like, I can't not take that as some kind of sign, that I should work with this kid. Yeah. And that was really special to see them experience the collection. And, when I asked them if they'd sell the Superman, for $3 million, they could definitely use the money. So their response was, I love that part of the film, to see how they respond to that question, because it is a hook throughout. Like, what would you do? And that changes, and it goes back and forth. And Darren, is feeling different ways, and there's different characters that feel different ways. Like, I'm sure his wife would be like, just sell it, and his buddy Brian would be like, I would never sell it. In fact, Brian, as you mentioned, would never slab it. He hates the slab books, right? And we do that kind of Office Space scene. In Office Space, they take the copy machine out back and just slam it. And so we did. That's where I gained inspiration to have Brian just break some slab books. There's a couple of fun things I got to do. The reality TV show that we got to kind of fake and mess around with. I like taking the piss on reality TV anytime I can.
So do I, man. Good for you, man. That is the difference between an earnest documentary and showbiz. Believe me, I hear you, man. I so hear you. And really, these people, like the kid who he and his father do Hatchback Comics, it is adorable. He's a small, they're small dealers, and and the gimmick is like they have like a whole rack in their hatchback of their minivan or whatever, and they sell out of that. They go to cons, and like you said, that they have that relationship and the excitement of going into his vault and seeing the really ultimate stuff, and it's like this father and son who get it and can share. And his dad having the Asperger's and not really understanding. I mean, it's tragic that the guy really did cut himself off from his kids and didn't allow them to share this. I get the, hey, keep the friends' hands off of this stuff, because I even had a friend who, when we were grade school kids in the 70s, his father had a collection that he passed down to his sons. And the kid, I mean, even as a 10-year-old kid, the kid was mindful of, we can look at him, man, but honestly, I can't let you touch him because we're saving them. And my dad was really serious about, like, please, they're fragile. And this is in the 70s, and he's telling me this. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, as long as I can see that 10-cent book or that 12-cent book, I'm cool and everything.
And where are those books now? And is he still in the Chicago area?
He sold his collection years ago. He's a tech guy. And it's funny because you even got people that, like, sold their first giant size X-Men, I believe, or X-Men #1. I forget which. And nothing but regret. And I get that too. From
Minister Jeff did that. Yeah, Minister Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You've got a lot of these other individual stories that touch on the big story as well. No, really well executed, man. 4 really cool episodes. And I really, I was riveted. And again, it's a subject that I know. And that's why I kind of get to be a snob. And that's like, oh, somebody made a comic book documentary. Okay, let's see. And it's like, no, this is great. And it really, it's something that is so relatable. Also, you see, is it Phantom Comics? What's the name of his company now, Daryl? That he's selling?
It ends up being ends up being Fantastic. His father's handle, like in the Reddit area, was Fantastic. So Darren inherited that word Fantastic from his father. Fantastic collection. Yeah,
Fantastic. Okay, because
Fantastic, like fantastic, but no IC at the end.
Okay, there we go. So that company, I've always heard about to help restore comics and make them as, gradable as possible. You press comics. I mean, am I right? Was it his mom that was kind of correcting and helping restore a couple comics and stuff in the film?
Not restoration per se, but you can do a certain amount of cleaning and pressing without it being a restored comic. I'm hip.
Yeah.
And I mean, we showed his mom doing a little bit of erasing and all that. She just it's cool. She likes to be involved now. She did help the dad, and then it became the thing that they divorced. And she didn't want anything to do with the comics, which was really amazing, right? A stand-up woman that's like, those messed up our relationship. I don't care what they're going to be worth. I don't want it. She's this possibility. She's the beacon of what you can be when you're on the other side of healing. I think was really powerful. And so she helps out now, but it's not like she's not doing stuff on the most valuable books. It's more like, let's just include and make it a family thing. Okay. And they press a lot. Brian learned to press a lot. I think, early on they pressed some of the big books before they really, really were good at it. I mean, they did a good job, right?
Okay.
But probably scary, like looking back now from 2 years back when they were originally pressing some books and they probably know a lot more. And I know, they've made mistakes along the way, and you just have to shrug your shoulders and go, you're never going to be perfect at anything, Certainly. Like they sold some books raw that I think they thought were a 9.6 that ended up grading at a 9.8. And that was the difference of $50,000 on a book, but somebody else, hey man, their lucky day, and they spread the word and said, hey, there's some jewels to be found in the Fantastic collection still. So it works both ways, and I know it's hard for anyone to not realize $50,000 or something like that, but it's something Darren's always working on is maybe not being such a perfectionist, because his dad really pounded it. I'm not saying physically pounded it into him, but his dad was a lawyer, super smart. If you didn't come in prepared on every angle, he would tear you apart. That's what Darren told me,
Yeah, it's how he was raised. And again,
all of us, yeah.
And really, this is an era when those kind of issues like Asperger's weren't being diagnosed. And correct. Obviously, as you say, and we learned this in the documentary, it ruined his marriage, really put a family dynamic within him and his brother as well. And that's really heartbreaking. And I'm glad that they are reconciling. And also, just as you said, that as far as restoring, both pressing comics, which is allowed, and cleaning them up, but no, the difference of the grades, and you really we really experience what anyone who discovers they have an old comic book and is it worth something or not, the process of getting it graded. And even, I don't want to spoil for the documentary, but there is a potential issue with that Superman #1 that they have to crack the case and make sure that the value hasn't changed. Yeah, and that's really like this heart in the throat. I mean, again, it's not even happening to me. And I'm even like, oh, God. And as you say, I mean, we're talking about millions for Superman #1 and Batman #1. And literally, if all of a sudden there's a new indent that they can't get rid of, it could cost 5 figures, 6 figures of grade variance.
Oh, yeah. And as Darren says, it goes from, sure, the money from something that's $3.5 million to maybe $1 million or less, but something that's a piece of pop culture, one of the 4 highest grades in the world, to something that's like, okay, it's one of the, top 100. It's just one of them. It goes from like an icon to like, it's like Michael Jordan to like, oh, this guy that played on the team. It really did, and that's a whole.
Oh, I do. I'm from sports radio. I know exactly what you're talking
about. Michael Jordan, right? I got my Chicago vibe in there.
Attaboy.
There you go. I was going to say like Horace Grant, right? Wasn't he on that team with him?
Of course. Yes, he was. Absolutely. For the first three-peat. Absolutely, he was.
Yes.
You're killing me. We could talk Pistons backwards at some point as well.
Hey. That's when I was growing up in the 80s.
There you go, man. I hear you. No, I absolutely hear you. But this is the part of and I think it is very relatable. And I'm a good lab rat to talk to you about your documentary series because, again, I like the stories. I'm not a big collector. I get it to a degree, but this really is a great education for not only somebody that I think is a bit versed in the world, but really I think for outsiders as well. And also just from the title and the cursory description of, it's about a guy that discovered his dad had a 1939 Superman #1. It's a much bigger story than that. And also the mid-grade books, which is the traffic of the conventions. I know myself, I look more for reader copies, but I'm going through bins at the trader tables and stuff. And if I can find a decent old book that doesn't have to be a key book and a really valuable book, but if I can find a good buy, $20 or less, I'm in. And I want to, cool. and also like the Reverend that's in there and others, it's like, no, I want to read this. I want to experience the book. But again, these things are so fragile and valuable that you don't want to mess them up. So, and that's why I buy a lot of like reader copies that are barely held together still. And it's like, I just want to read them again because again, I remember reading them as a kid.
Yeah. And there's something about, I went and got a reprint of the Superman so that I could read it, not just digitally. And also we need, I even bought like a reprint that was graded, for $45.
Interesting.
So because we needed to shoot certain things that we didn't want to shoot the original with.
Of course.
So it was nice and I got a book from the collection. Darren knows I like Green Lantern, so he gave me a Green Lantern book, and I will never get it slabbed because I want to be able to just read the story and touch it and smell it. And the cool thing is, we do get to, like you said, because it had to be reopened, we do get to see like Matt Nelson at CGC with that original book and from 1939 and flipping through it, right there. They didn't let us film the cracking, which I thought was cool, right?
But you hear it, and it is again. Any collector would be like, exactly. It's like, oh my god, I can only imagine what's happening right now. It's like opening a clam and hoping the pearl isn't disturbed.
Oh my gosh, it's it's almost better we couldn't.
It is.
Watch it.
I kind of think it is, Adam, because the imagination, the theater of the mind, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
Darren's reaction is just like Darren's like hiding behind his own hands. That's fun.
And also, as he says, well, I don't want to spoil, but the aftermath and everything, this poor guy. And also, the through line, too, and you get it in the first part, and it's resolved by the end. He's like, I'm having doubts about why I did this. And he was on CBS.
The whole film.
Yeah. And also just the publicity as, he was preparing to sell this stuff, and he's on the CBS Morning News. And, hey, so, what do you think your dad would think about this? In that typical empty-headed morning show. Hey, man, I'm from broadcasting, as I was telling you. And you can't help it. And, hey, it's Happy Talk Morning Show. Gee, let's talk about your dad that really screwed up your family dynamic. And, you've got a lot of issues still. I so feel for him. I absolutely, and we all will, man. And then That's the thing. And it's tell me, like, did it worry you about perhaps that maybe he would pull the plug and not want to do the show? The series?
Oh yeah. Oh, of course. And in that moment you're talking, we start the film with him not wanting to do it, or the series with him basically freaking out and not wanting to do it. And why am I showing the world this about myself? And the press is picking it up. And we get back to that, at the beginning of episode 4, basically.
Yeah.
We work our way back, and like you said, if you were put on the spot, and it was actually like pretty nice that the news was doing a positive story for once, right? And and then it ends up being, because negative, because it had
painful
such an
for
effect.
him. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're just watching, it's like, oh, that's an interesting little, tidbit or whatever. And meanwhile, the guy that it's about and everything, it's agony because here's my pain.
And he got slammed, and he got slammed by people on the internet.
Yes.
He didn't feel he was authentic in that news thing. We were already filming. It had so much of the real stuff, and it was tough when they said, what would your dad think? And he's like, yeah, Dad, you did a good job. But it's like, that's not really what Darren thinks. And he's like, I feel really crappy about that. That's what I really love, is the authenticity. You get to show something and peel it back and go, I feel bad about what I did on the news. I don't feel like I'm telling the right story. And we start from that point, more or less, of him wanting to be out of the documentary. And there were multiple times that he wanted it stopped, between me and you and the whole audience here. We really highlight one of the times, but it was painful for him. And I think what was going on is that, he had not resolved things with his dad before his dad passed. He's processing that and maybe hadn't processed it yet, still in the midst of it. And then that's being put on camera, and I'm poking and pushing him along the way to look more at that stuff as he's looking at it with the books, because I come from like a mental health background and consciousness and meditation. And I just really like the inner world. I'm just really interested in sitting with his mom and being like, what did you like about your husband? And then she on the other side is like, oh, because he was like my dad, you married the devil,
Yeah.
No subtext, no pain in it. Whereas, with Darren, he's still in it. And then he's realizing like, wow, people are going to have forever my process, not me on the other side, but they're going to see the me in the midst of it. And that's really hard to wrap your head around of, oh, people are going to remember me for that part when I was kind of figuring stuff out, not who I am or what I get to. And, I just had to continually assure him that it doesn't define you. It's one moment in time. People realize it's one moment in time. And the people that don't, they can go F themselves. That's
right.
And there's going to be trolls, everything you see,
yes.
There's trolls. So we got there. I know at some point the pain he was in, he would see the film as the thing that was the pain, because it was the easiest thing in front of him. I think that was poking and always asking the questions, but underneath it was still the pain of his father and just life and the unraveling the conditioning of having a dad that really doesn't say I love you much and is a perfectionist, and what that does to a lot of us. I mean, a lot of people watch this movie and come up to me and go, including my cousin, and be like, your uncle never said I love you to me. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know he was like that. And I didn't know you had to deal with that perfectionism too. So I think there's a lot of people that can end up just relating on some level to family conditioning, and Darren serves it up for us and really lets us see it for ourselves. And I hope I didn't talk too long, but I just love the inner world. John, I just love the inner world so much.
No, Adam, really, you capture it. And also, I think it's good for younger generations to see these stories and understand that the World War II generation and other, and I mean, I'm a bit older than you. My dad was a World War II guy. Thankfully, my dad was a hugger, and I love you kind of
nice.
But there were a lot of fathers, and I knew fathers in my own family, my uncles and things, that were absolutely stoic, and it was tough to really get a warm response to their kids, son or daughter. And it was a different way, and it's unfortunate. Thankfully, as we retreat in some ways with our society, I think there are a lot of forward steps as well. And I do think a lot of young parents understand the importance of nurturing their kids, and what a missed opportunity for this father to not, really get his kids into it. And like, cause they clearly would have been, God, that great issue of the imaginary tale that you focus on of Superman, about Superman's sons. And it certainly is even reflected in the Lois and Clark, or rather the the most recent Superman and Lois series, where we have a
Mhm.
powered son and a non-powered son, and it really does parallel the dynamics between him and his brother, and
Yeah.
and also just the regret that again, Dad couldn't connect with them in a more loving way.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought because his brother has some, learning disability, so to speak, and Darren is just so super smart. And it's just like they have different powers in some ways. His brother, though, sleeps well, right? And doesn't stay up at night thinking things through so much. So, who's better off per se, but Darren definitely feels like he's the steward of his brother and he's there to take care of him. Darren in general, I would say, loves the underdog. It's why it works with the hatchback kid too. The artist, Eric, he just really loves the underdog. I think Darren takes on that superhero vibe in his life of, I want to help people. Like Darren has a very big heart, he does. And he might be, a very smart tech business driven guy, but he's got a great heart. And, he's even,
Really?
I don't think I can't say it yet. He hasn't announced it yet, but the collection's going to do something cool for charity as well. So,
hey, great. Oh, that's so good to hear, man. Well, and again, these individual stories along with his story, the hatchback kid has dialysis and has to deal with his kidneys. And the poor guy can't drive. His grandmother drives him to dialysis and stuff. But the kid has found this great business with his father selling the comics through the hatchback and everything. And he's doing it. The artist who your heart goes out to him, who designed the company's logo, can only move his index fingers and thumbs, but it still allows him to hold a stylus and draw. And he's a great artist. We see him drawing and creating the logo for the company and everything. And it's like these people don't including him, they don't let their frustrations get in the way of succeeding in life, moving forward, and making as good of a life for themselves as they can. And that is a fantastic highlight to this series that you've made.
Yeah, I love the character, the people in it. Yeah, it does make you fall in love with the community and how much people love comics and look out for each other. Sure, it's a business, as Chuck Rosansky, who I think is really good in this.
Mile High Comics, everybody. Yes, Chuck is in this documentary. Yes, go on.
And I think reveals something that I don't think a lot of people talk about. They do talk a lot about how LGBTQ and how he's very out there, but I don't think a lot of people know the past with his father. But at one point Chuck says, "Hey, it's full contact capitalism. It is pretty. You got to watch out. It's a business, and that's for sure. But it's also a Comic-Con, people dressing up and having a good time, and people just shooting the shit about, I love this character." And for me, that doesn't care much about it. I just quickly saw it like sports. People get together and they talk about their teams, and it means really nothing in the grand scheme of the world. But it's fun to do, and it's fun. It's something to hang out with. And if people can see the parallel, if you're a sports guy, you'll see the parallel. If you're a wife, in the Midwest, maybe you would even have a little more understanding for sports, where it's it's just something to hang out and talk about.
Sure.
But I do think that I showed it to a lady from Chicago, Erin Marin, who I'm doing a film on, and she knows nothing about comics, and she loved it. She's
Excellent.
an advocate. She's an advocate for children's rights, and she's an amazing story too. Yeah, she got a thing called Aaron's Law passed in Chicago first in that area, and now she's got 38 states. She's amazing. But if her, who is just an advocate for children's rights, could care less about sports and comics, she loved it because it's family and it's interpersonal and it's cool. So I really think it does have something for everybody in there.
I'm with you, man. No, it's so great, man. My God, and there are moments they're gonna make you cry. My God, that poor little girl that she gravitated at such a young age, and saw her dad had a little Spider-Man toy, and she totally got into it. And then they went down to Disney, and she got to meet a guy playing Spider-Man, and literally it's oh, thank you, because you really helped my mother and my father when I couldn't. And it's oh my God, from this little baby of a kid, really dressed it'll make you weep, everybody.
If you don't cry at that part, I don't know, if you're human.
You're not human. You're an AI watching this thing. What the hell are you doing?
And I'll be very honest that where I placed that was very purposeful. At what part in the film or in the series was a part that I kind of wanted us to break down a bit as an audience, so that we could build up from there and learn more actually about the inner world of Superman and his morals and stuff and why we loved him and some of the origin of Darren's dad and some of the good stuff and the origin of like Superman in general. So it's nice to have a breakdown before you then like rebuild. That's why I put it there. And gosh, I was just really happy. Like that kind of stuff came out of nowhere. You know, Darren had met Phil, and then I met Phil, and then I heard a story. I'm like, yeah, let's film it. And oh my gosh. So
that's amazing, man. I got to ask, I'm curious about the business side of what you do as a documentarian, as a filmmaker, because we were talking even before we started recording. I mean, really, it was even bad prior to the strikes of last year, but certainly even post strikes, whether it's scripted television or documentary or film, or even, well, that covers everything. There is no, there is anything else.
Reality TV took a hit.
There you go. And even reality TV. Yeah, it's like the outlets at first were there with the advent of streaming, and now they put so much content, I think, out there initially that they're not seeing the return as far as new subscribers or however they generate revenue from putting that content out there. So, and the strikes, as you well know, exacerbated that problem where, wait a minute, we can't just greenlight every TV show, and also we got to cut back on the budget. And where we used to have a writer's room of 15 people for a scripted drama, now you have 4. And when you used to have 26 episodes over the air networks, well, now you get 10. Or maybe even, and of course, in Selling Superman, it's only 4 episodes. But it's well. First of all, before we get to that environment, did you consider making it just a movie rather than a documentary series?
Oh, 100%. That's how we started. And it wasn't until post-production that we just realized, oh, this is longer. You know, this is, I can't. I did the first 40 minutes and showed that to everybody. And I realized, structurally where I was at 40 minutes. And everyone loved the first 40 minutes. It's what becomes episode 1. And it's like, well, I can't wrap it up in another 40. There's so much to happen now. It's almost like Act 1 is episode 1. It's really a lot of backstory, even though it doesn't feel like slow backstory.
Not at all.
And so to me at that point, I'm like, oh, this is. I look at my storyboard and I'm like, oh, this is way longer. And once I had episode 2 done, I realized that was another 40 minutes where it was a natural cutoff. I was like, yeah, there's no going back. That's just the decision. The story is just telling me that. So no, we didn't plan on it. And we thought it'd be a feature doc and we would do a lot of theatrical and screenings and all that. But it just came out as 4 episodes. And, you have to stretch a budget back to the business side. Post-production for 4 episodes is very different than post-production for 90 minutes. It's double the editing time, basically double everything. So
Certainly.
You just start moving things around to make it work.
Understood. And it does. It basically clocks when you count all 4 episodes around 3 hours. Right?
Is that right? Yeah, 45 minutes. Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And
210 minutes. So yeah.
And the last part is like an hour and 8 minutes. So yeah, it's no, it's really it's great. Well, back to my initial question then, because right now, and once again, everybody, Selling Superman, you can purchase all 4 episodes for just under $12. I know for Amazon Prime, I'm assuming it's the same price as Apple and Google Play, the 3 outlets that it's currently on and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, selling it eventually to streamers potentially. You don't have to give me details, but I imagine that's not easy because again, all these companies are kind of being hesitant with purchasing new content.
Well, we'll see. We do want to approach them. We think it deserves to be on a bigger platform and seen by more people. So yeah, we're out there. That's part of my job is to talk to these streamers right now and let them know how good this is and how good the reaction's been, and that it'll drive people and people will watch it and people will talk about it. That's what you want, something that someone will actually go, you know what, you should check this out. It has that ability. It definitely does from what I've seen. This is not just, over cockiness on my part. No. People do want to talk about it. People at the screens are like, oh, I got to tell my friend this. So yeah, that's what we do. And then, on a business level, it's kind of hard. It's hard to get past I've had success with, transactional video on demand, like purchases and rentals in the years past, where you have a niche audience and you can really push it and it goes to a certain level, and that wakes up the streamers. But people really expect everything to be on a streamer for free. I mean, I say for free, they're paying a subscription.
Sure.
But when you see like the Christopher Reeve doc come out in theater in September, October, it's on, then you can buy it in November, and it's streaming in December. Well, then you're seeing like a 2-month wait period, and you're like, I'll just wait. And so if the streamers like build that into people's heads, then anyone that sees Selling Superman, on an independent level come out, they're like, in 2 months it'll be streaming. And that's not at all the case. We came out early November, and we're just talking to streamers now, and hopefully maybe June, or something like that. But who knows, right? So I would really encourage people to jump on it and watch now and not wait. Of course, it helps us in every way, but you just never know. It is a strange world out there, and you don't know what they're going to like or say yes to or greenlit. Yeah.
Well, and I want to make the distinction that is me saying this, not Adam. It really is these media companies' faults for putting so much content in. And I understand they want to attract subscribers and things, but you're right. Not only for documentaries and series as well, but obviously first-run movies. Yeah. We all see the challenge that's happening in the theaters, and the nerds are a little more inclined to see the latest Star Wars movie on the big screen or the latest superhero movie. Hey, I'm a guy that grew up with this stuff, and on the one hand was thrilled that in the 2000s we got so much content, but I got to be honest, every now and then, especially some of the misfires of DC and Marvel in the last couple of years, like, that's all right, I'll wait. I'm in no rush to see this. And I mean, and again, I'm a guy that was especially as I'm sure you were as well with things like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or whatever. Oh my God, first Friday? You got midnight showing on Thursday night? You're damn right I'm going to be there. Absolutely, man. And it's not because I'm old. It's because, unfortunately, some of the caretakers of intellectual properties, they're widgets. I mean, they're treating them no differently if they made office supplies and they were selling staplers, let alone actual storytelling content. And unfortunately, it shows in the product. Again, this is my edit. If Adam wants to chime in, he can, but I really do think that's a challenge. And that when there is even something good, it's like, oh, wait, it's okay.
Yeah. I wish I, business-wise knew what they should be doing or could be doing. Sure. It is just kind of what's evolving. And, but like, just stating what is and how I can see the consumer's mind, like you said, and it's like, I'll wait for that one. So It does make certain quote unquote indie, films and series tougher to direct sell, even though it's easier than, 20 years ago for sure.
Sure.
It can make it challenging because you have that built into people's mentality, but we can break through. And what, I don't know any solution because I don't know their business models and what they have or can't do, but I just know that they can all do a better job of content. That's for sure. I know they can, go beyond the common denominator and beyond the just step and repeat and keep doing the same thing over because they know it works. That's where you come to the widgets. Like, well, if that widget sold before, let's repeat it and do another widget. Rather than like taking a little leap and saying, well, this is new and a little out of the box and cross genre, and this could be something that, like approaching a network before we had done this, they probably would have been, I don't know, no, I don't think so. We're going to fund this. And to be honest, we didn't want them meddling with creativity because Darren would have freaked out even more, Can you imagine, like, not only is it my call, but then a network coming in and being like, it doesn't matter what he says, like we're just doing what we want to do. Whoa. So there's also just this respect to the character, to the person on screen, where sometimes the networks that could scare somebody off and you never get a story. So I think the networks, should be responsive to us that are out there doing it and raising funds to do it, because we're getting access that they wouldn't be able to get in some cases.
Understood. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you some fun questions.
Sure.
Are you Are you more of because you said, that you watch the TV shows and the movies and stuff. Are you psyched for the Superman? Have you seen the trailer and Daredevil and some of the other recent things that they've been teasing that are coming later this year?
I can't say Daredevil that I'm following.
Okay.
Superman, absolutely excited for, right? Because I grew up with Superman 1 and Superman 2
Oh my God,
back in the day, Superman 2 with the evil, with Zod. I talked to his agent. I talked to Terrence's agent. And
Terrence Stamp. Wow.
Yeah,
Go on.
I really tried to get him in the film because if you, a little tangent here, because he went to India for like 9 years, I think 7 or 9 years. And it's when he came back from that transformation and he was able to not see himself always as the leading role man. And that's when he got an evil part and became Zod. And it's like he had to like dismantle, and like India's big on that, like kind of like crushing the ego and coming rebirth again. And I love that because I love India and I go there a lot, and
interesting.
And I love the inner world. So I thought, hey, I can relate to Terrence on this. This is a cool way for me to maybe talk about it in the film is through the evil guy. And like, what a cool way to talk about it. The villain is actually this very enlightened guy. He couldn't do it in the end, but that was fun to look at. But where were we at? Where was before the tangent?
Well, just the stuff that may be coming, or even the stuff that's aired. I'm so glad that you have Superman and Lois in there. Even clips of the '80s Superboy show, which is a clunky syndicated show, but if you appreciate it from a popcorn standpoint, it was a lot of fun. And there were real comic book people writing and producing the show for the Salkins and everything. I mean, really great writers that thankfully are still with us that really came from the comics and were writing the TV show.
That's amazing. I mean, as part of doing this film, I got to go and watch more than I normally was. Right, I got into Peacemaker on HBO. I really kind of fell in love with that. Maybe that inclined me towards James Gunn and those guys taking different takes on it, because I thought it was funny. It's incredibly violent, which is ridiculous, but very funny and self-deprecating. And I started to love that. Green Lantern, kind of more old school.
Here, repeat yourself, Adam. You face down found me for a second. Was that Green Lantern you were talking about?
Green Lantern, I love. Maybe not the newer ones, but I remember Flash Gordon way back. But what's coming out soon? I mean, the Superman's exciting. I'm excited to see what Gunn does with the new Superman. Not so much the Super Dog, but
I love Crypto, but I respect that. Okay. That's quite all right. Come on,
man. But yeah, I know. I'm just. I like cats. What can I say? I like cats.
There is a Green Lantern HBO TV series in the works, and my good friend Tom King, who had great runs on Superman and Batman, is one of the principal writers. Great. So yeah, I've got a lot of faith that Gunn gets it in the same way that I think Kevin Feige gets the whole Marvel universe, and certainly Gunn proved that with the Guardians movies that he made too. But yeah, and also I don't know if you watched it, and I don't know how into animation. Creature Commandos is a hard R animated series on Max. It's excellent.
Okay. No, I don't know that one well. I'm not afraid to be educated when it comes to stuff. Did it drop off there again, or you still got?
Yeah, you're phasing a little bit. Am I phasing sometimes when I don't know when I'm talking?
Now and then I'll get a little black screen for a second, but
I see. Okay.
I feel very connected.
All right, good, man. All right, excellent. Because really, and I really appreciate everyone that's sticking with us, because it is, again, it's only happening here and there, and we can, even a couple times when I haven't asked you to repeat, we get the gist of what you're saying. So
great,
it's fine. But yeah, no, again, everybody, I can't recommend this enough. Selling Superman, Amazon, Google Play, Apple Plus. You can buy them there. It's the best $12 you'll spend this month. I promise you. And so what? And I know you're promoting this right now, but and also I don't know how much you want to tease any projects you have in the future. But I'm sure you're working on something new, maybe.
Yeah. There's two things. Of course, we're selling Superman to the networks. Aaron's Law, we're out there raising funds for. We just put a sizzle out, so that's AaronsLawFilm.com. That's the one. She's based in Chicago area. She's advocating for, it's a law that mandates schools to teach an hour of body safety for kids. This is good touch. This is bad touch. This is who you talk to if someone's coming at you with sexual abuse. And really a big part of it is finding your voice. I really love these films that are empowering. Selling Superman has this inner power aspect to it. Aaron's Law has this empowering people coming out of victimhood, as well as like if you teach a kid early on, even if it happens, to that they have somewhere they can go talk to. They learn that the world actually hears me rather than I have to be afraid and listen to the villain who's trying to scare me. Because that's what happens in a lot of those cases. The villain is sitting there telling them, I'm going to kill this person and that person if you tell anyone. That's really the biggest issue. So when you get through that, you're not only stopping sexual abuse and you're stopping the villains earlier, you're teaching a kid like the world is actually a little more responsive and caring than you realize. And you do stop a lot of PTSD and a lot of trauma that propagates. And since I started, my girlfriend's the one directing it. Cool. I've talked, so many friends have come forward and told me, about their experiences that I've known for years that just didn't speak up. And there's about 40 million adults out there that have gone through that, and it's mind-boggling. So that's one project. And as much as it sounds, pretty heavy topic, it's very positive. Erin's got an amazing story. She's went from someone that had brain injury to being a national speaker. And then I'm doing Road to Dharma, season 2. We're filming in September. So Road to Dharma, we motorcycle through the Himalayas. With a yogi, a master teacher, like a Yoda figure, right? I mean, this is a Star Wars background coming through. Who would want to hang out? This is like hanging out with Yoda, and he's taking you to these different planets. Road to Dharma is one of my favorite things. It's 10 episodes where you go to these sacred sites and we explore freedom. That one's out there already. We're doing season 2 up in Ladakh, India, which is all above 11,000 feet. It's like a little Tibet, basically. And this one is the Wheels of Awakening. So this is more about, how do we wake up? How do we awaken to the truth of who we are? How do we realize our own inner power? Whereas the Road to Dharma was more about freedom and all the aspects of freedom. I love that stuff. And then you get, cool motorcycles, the landscape.
Sure.
And then people scared. And I mean, Road to Dharma, we had monsoon rains and Indian road killer traffic. Oh man! So there's danger, and yet then there's enlightenment. And to me, that's the best. You have a little bit of risk for high reward.
Amazing. No, that sounds like a hell of a project, man. Truly, that's great. That's fantastic. Am I missing anything, Adam, regarding Selling Superman that you want to get across before we wrap up?
For people, if you have a bigger international audience that can't get it on those platforms, if they go to sellingsuperman.com, we have a kind of a special edition that has the bonus features, and that can be accessed from anywhere in the world. So that's
wonderful.
Yeah,
man. As you might know from crowdfunding and stuff, a lot of times when it's a physical product, that is a barrier for the international audience. So it is great that they can get the digital product along with special features that way. So again, everybody, that's sellingsuperman.com. Selling Superman, the name of the documentary. Again, Amazon Prime. You can buy it there. You can buy it on Apple Plus. You can buy it on Google Play, and you are not going to regret it. And I know my audience. This is the kind of thing that we're all waiting for, and it really does open a door, and I think really gets into the nitty gritty of collecting in a way that if you're a cursory collector or observer like I am, it's a great education. If you are part of this world, you will feel represented and seen. And again, we've been talking about authenticity. This is a very authentic story of a guy really who had a very complicated relationship with his father. His whole family did, and their resolution and moving beyond it and seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Really great story, Adam. Congratulations, and really a pleasure to meet you and to hear about this documentary. Thank you so much for coming on today. Likewise, thanks for all your passion, man. I can feel it. Well, thanks, everybody, for watching. Word Balloon Live. We're coming back on Thursday. I don't know if Adam is aware of this, but Diamond, the big distributor, kind of announced Chapter 11, and it's kind of put the comic buying. Any thoughts on that, Adam, as we're wrapping? No, I don't have to. I hear about it because of just hearing about the press. But sure. And I think even comic book, some other outlets. Yeah, it just seems like it's a tough time in general in media right now, and my thoughts go for everyone that's a creator and artist, and like how to pivot and make do.
Yeah.
And the stores too, man. And that's, we're going to talk to my buddy Patrick Brower of Challengers Comics, because they're, really they're the front line that's getting impacted by this time and mess. So I really do want to hear how they're reacting and repositioning themselves to continue their business, because it's a very tough situation that unfortunately.
And we need the store. You need community play. You need brick and mortar. You need places to go just for anything. So.
Adam, we grew up with record stores and bookstores like aplenty, and now you really have to search for the mom and pop stores that still exist. And it really bums me out that kids don't have more places to hang out the way we did when we were kids. Absolutely. So and thank God for the comic stores, and that they're like the last bastion of a place to go and browse and hang out and stuff. So Absolutely. I'm with you, man. Well, thanks again for talking, Adam, and everyone else for watching and listening. More great Word Balloon Live coming this week. Until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.